Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening live to Mailbox Sundays with your hosts, Dr. Terry Jackson, Life Coach Tim T., and Pastor Kenny Smith.
Welcome back, Source Nation. As I stated before the break, our special guest is Mr. Ifa Sango, and he's in the studio with us at this present time. Mr. Sango, how are you today?
I feel great, and you?
I am doing well. Tell us a little bit about yourself and this cooperative movement that you've created.
Okay, my name is Ifa Sango, born and raised in New York. Just a regular working class individual with construction experience, mostly as a little electrician. Did some studies in urban studies and civil engineering. Lived for about 20 years in the Washington metropolitan area and now residing in Georgia. Former executive director of a nonprofit community development corporation, which is a self-help group, mostly for housing and job training for the homeless. And now I'm a COO of First Fruits Development, Community Development, First Fruits Development Group, LLC.
Okay. You know, a couple weeks ago we had two conversations. They were around cooperative economics and the importance of cooperative economics from a personal development perspective and from an African American community perspective. Talk a little bit about why cooperatives are extremely important in the economic development of African American communities as well as the individual.
Cooperatives are extremely important for community development because it's the most efficient way to revitalize the African American experience. It's not a new tool, but it's something that is presently being underutilized now, considering the vulnerabilities of the present economic order. Cooperatives as an industry or as an economic order has about 800 million people involved in cooperatives. 100 million of them are actually employed in cooperatives. Cooperatives are an economic tool used around the world. Brazil is mostly agricultural. They have something like $2.83 billion in revenues. These are 2006, and they export produce to 137 countries. India has 239 million people involved in cooperatives. And and I can go on in terms of Africa, which is about 5.9 million, and Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire.
Now let's bring that closer to home, because one of the challenges we face as African Americans, especially the African American family, is the lack of resources. As an individual, if I wanted to subscribe to this philosophy, how would I begin to learn about cooperatives and the potential impact that they could have on me as an individual?
Okay, we have a basic class that we do, but there's a wealth of information, particularly online, and there are technical groups such as the Federation for Southern Cooperative, and it depends on the type of cooperative too that an individual would want to get involved in. But the alliance, the International Alliance for Cooperatives, If you're involved in agricultural activity, you could go to the Federation for Southern Cooperative, and you can also visit the International Cooperative Alliance. The concept of cooperative is not very abstract or very technical. It's just a group of people coming together, mostly for economic reasons, for each other's mutual interests. There are purchasing cooperatives, there are investment cooperatives, there are agricultural cooperatives, there are finance cooperatives, like such in credit unions. Many of the credit unions are cooperatives. But as a tool, when a group of people comes together, combining either money or resources, it makes everybody's overall aspirations and goals much more easy.
Well, let me ask this question, because we're talking about a group of people, and of course, we are born into a group of people called a family.
Exactly.
Why isn't it that, at least in your opinion, why isn't it that the African American families act as a cooperative, and what is it that we're missing about this concept of cooperatives?
I think what we need to do is see more evidence of a cooperative is basically a unification of people too, and when you talk about historically, our unity has been discouraged. It's been sabotaged in many instances. Sometimes done internally by our own and with the help of outside forces that don't want to see us rise and regain our prosperous existence that we once had. So a lot of it is conditioning. But when you take the conditioning and multiply that with the lack of seeing enough of present day cooperative economic activity taking place, and a lot of it is there's a lack of knowledge on the power and potential efficiency of cooperatives if you want to grow the African American experience.
Mm-hmm. And you just mentioned two key things, at least, that stuck out to me. One, you talked about conditioning, and so that conditioning first starts with the individual, and that leads back to the question I asked earlier: what can individuals do to learn more about cooperatives? And then you also talked about the power of the cooperative and being able to actually see it, operating in order to see its impact. The question is always going to become, what can we do as individuals to learn so that we can articulate to others, the collective, the importance of being able to operate in a collective.
One of the things that individuals can do is to learn more about cooperatives is do some basic research. I can give you one particular group right now. You could pull up on their website, and you can get all of the basics, including seeing evidence of working cooperatives and how these working cooperatives are benefiting. Again, I'm not affiliated with the group, at least not yet, anyway. But I have a lot of admiration for some of the work that they do, particularly for black farmers and the agricultural cooperative movement, and that is the Federation of Southern Cooperative. There are various, So they have a wealth of research information, and just skimming through their website, you'll learn all there is to know about cooperatives and how they work and what they do in terms of the mechanism of a cooperative. Again, that's an agricultural cooperative, but there are many types. There are finance. We intend to be a purchasing. In terms of another cooperative, you could say they're a cooperative because, again, by definition, this is a group of people. You mentioned the word family, coming together as a family to support black businesses and black manufacturers and services. That is the Black Business Network. That's another very good. I would say they are cooperative by definition. It's not cooperatively owned, but it's a group of people coming together for a common cause, and that is economic development and each other.
Yeah. And the reason I asked the question and made reference to personal development, because we know that it all starts with the individual, and then like-minded individuals who get together and form a cooperative. And like-minded individuals get together and influence others either by action or by word to create a collective. And so it all starts with the individual. And if this is a powerful tool, we as individuals have to become more aware of, the different types of cooperatives and the power that they have. Let's move on, and because you're mentioning that there are different types of cooperatives, and I want to talk a little bit about the financial cooperative and somewhat about the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago dealing with cryptocurrency. Can you pretty much explain and define for the listening audience what cryptocurrency is and how we can use that as a cooperative to build wealth in our communities?
Okay. Cryptocurrency, let's look at what currency and or money is. By definition, currency or money is a medium of exchange, and that medium of exchange is for goods and services. Right now, the most popular one is fiat currency, which is the average dollar, that's in your pocket. As a result of the near economic meltdown of the world, in 2007 and 2008, some developers got together and they developed what was known as one of the more popular cryptocurrencies, known as Bitcoin. Again, cryptocurrencies are an electronic currency. It's presently maybe 300 to 400 cryptocurrencies in existence now. Bitcoin being the more popular one right now because it's the most liquid. The reason why Black people should take a very hard look at this and get involved in this as soon as possible is because it would allow us to break the economic dependency that we have on the status quo as a result of our dependency on the present economic order. And that's one of the main reasons why Black folks can't unite. If we are dependent on the euro, the dollar, or whatever other currency, whoever controls that currency controls the economic agenda. And if the economic agenda is to serve somebody else, then in order for you to get that currency for your own existence, then you're going to be under the influence and control of people that controls that currency. Individuals that want to break from the matrix right now is setting up what is known as a new economy. And a good film that I would highly recommend everyone watch it's a PBS series called Fixing the Future. And this shows Black folks as well as white folks involved in this new economic order And this new economic order is breaking from the matrix. These are communities that are self-sufficient and self-sustaining, but they are not little islands unto themselves. They are networked with other self-sufficient, self-sustaining communities, which overall creates a overall environment of economic prosperity for everybody that's in that network. Not for African Americans, we are not as involved as we should be in that, but I'm seeing, and as a result of some recent organizing I'm doing right now, seeing that more individuals are coming to the plate in terms of getting involved and actually developing cryptocurrency and making it liquid to utilize it as an exchange for goods and services.
And that's great, because there are a lot of people out there talking about, economic empowerment and talking about creating wealth. And as you so eloquently stated earlier, it is those who control currency who will have the ability to control our destiny. Now, I'm going to bring this back to personal development. When you're talking about cryptocurrency, you're talking about a new technology. You're talking about new terminology. You're talking about having to be aware of what's going on in your environment, and especially economically, if you really want to create wealth. And so what we're talking about is personal development, is the importance of continuous education, of always knowing what the latest, the greatest is, but more importantly, being able to look out into the future, because we want to develop legacies such that we take care of 2 or 3 generations with our planning today. Source Nation, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to It's Your Time with Dr. Terry Jackson. TIME is an acronym for Transform, Inspire, Motivate, and Empower. We are speaking with Mr. Ifa Sango. He is our special guest today. If you have any comments, please give us a call at 619-924-0933. Please press option 1 if you have a comment or a question. And Mr. Sango, tell us a little bit about the, how Cooperative, how the new cryptocurrency can be utilized in a cooperative to gain financial wealth.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do while I'm doing that is also tie it into your statement about personal development. One of the reasons that the status quo has such control over our labor and our being is because as human beings, particularly the masses, we undervalue our intellectual property and our skill set as a currency. That is a currency that we don't put as much value on, and we feel that it only has value if the corporate elite says it has value. But if we do a personal assessment of that value and then share that information and value with our neighbors, friends, and immediate family and extended family, then you have the basis for an economic agenda. And once you have the basis for an economic agenda, you can create any sort of currency you want. In this case, if you want to utilize cryptocurrency, you can. Again, there are several cryptocurrencies out there, Bitcoin being the most popular. There's Litecoin. There's Gems, which is an up-and-coming cryptocurrency. There's OneCoin right now, which is rising, has a largest participation of individuals around the world, something like 7 million. The other cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin, has a market capitalization of something like $5 billion, which isn't much in terms of the world economy. but it's recognized by tens of thousands of businesses and merchants, which makes it liquid and gives it value. So again,
go ahead and finish.
Yeah. So again, what gives any currency value is the relationship that people have with each other, and when that relationship begins in process of exchanging goods and services, even bartering, you can barter and attach a cryptocurrency value to it, and you have an economic order taking place. Imagine if a million, which is our goal is to try to get 1 million African Americans involved in that sort of activity by exchanging and sharing goods and services with each other, first through purchasing, then through investment, and then through development.
You said something pretty interesting a few minutes ago. You talked about an agenda. I read an article maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, which is probably the largest bank in the country. He came out. He spoke out against cryptocurrency, and to understand him speaking out against it, it was because with the $5 billion in cryptocurrency, if it's currently valued, at least Bitcoin, if it's currently valued at that. Now, as that continues to grow, then that's less of a fiat money that will be used, which, of course, is what J.P. Morgan Chase deals in. And the more cryptocurrencies used, it takes the power away from big banking. And so for him to come and speak out against it, and I read the article, that shows somewhat of a fear of this catching on across the globe with the masses of the people.
Did you also remember in that article? And I read that, and I've seen the video as well. He didn't discount the. Well, first we have to remember that he's saying what he's supposed to say. I mean, what he's supposed to say is that because for him to say that cryptocurrency, or for him to acknowledge that cryptocurrency is an up-and-coming economic order that's going to cut them as the middleman out is pretty much an economic suicide on his part. So he's saying what he's supposed to say. But if you also notice, he didn't discount that the technology cannot be stopped. As a matter of fact, I think he acknowledged that, and I think he even alluded that it will be incorporated and or co-opted by the established banking network. One of the things I also found about that dialogue is that he keeps calling for government regulations, for government to come down. If you remember that, for government to come down on people, and that they risk all kinds of legal retributions and stuff like that. So I find that interesting.
Let me ask you this question. Because the everyday average African American person who has no idea about cryptocurrency, again, it goes back to personal development. How can they and where can they go to learn more about it? Because, as people say, I need $1 to go pay my electric bill. How is cryptocurrency going to help me pay my electric bill if they're not accepting cryptocurrency as a currency?
Well, right now, the vast majority right now, and that's presently, is not accepting cryptocurrency just yet. But the number of businesses that are accepting cryptocurrency, mostly Bitcoin right now, because that is the most popular one right now, is growing and growing larger as we speak. ultimately, if you remember, there was a time where when we went to the bank, we dealt with there was no such thing as an ATM machine. We got our money through. I guess I'm revealing my age here. I wanted to keep that classified information, but I'll admit it. Hey, there was a time where we got online with the banks and we had our pass book, and we went up to the teller and we drew money or deposited money the old-fashioned way. And I specifically remember an incident where this one particular bank in Brooklyn, New York, had a sample. This is about 30 years ago now. A sample of a ATM machine, and I'm looking at this, and everybody, we're standing online looking at, what, a money machine, please? It'll never happen, right? Hey, 30 years later, what do we have here? A ATM machine, quote unquote, money machine, in almost every retail outlet, every bodega in the country.
That's very true.
I'm envisioning the very soon, in my lifetime, and relatively soon, that cryptocurrency and electronic funds will be as everyday as fiat money. As a matter of fact, there are many times I've heard of a lot of stories and had personal experiences where individuals would prefer a credit card or ATM card to cash money. So I think fiat currency is on its way out, and electronic currency, otherwise known as cryptocurrency, is going to be the new economic order. And because of its decentralization, because of its peer-to-peer capabilities, where we can conduct businesses with each other without the need of banks. Again, another reason why the chairman of Chase, if economic activity can take place and financial without the need for middlemen such as the banking institutions, then that creates a threat. It's in our best interest because we have more control, and you're not talking about fees. So the technical and economic capabilities in terms of empowering us as individuals are vast.
So what can we do? Because, the majority of us are not aware of cryptocurrency. We may have heard the term Bitcoin, but the other cryptocurrencies that you mentioned, we've not heard of. What can we do to educate our people, and what can we do from a personal perspective to become more educated on this, so that we can begin to do peer-to-peer business?
Right. I have some excellent articles on the basics of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and how it works. It tells you all the basics in terms of wallet, how to set up a wallet, and so I'll be more than happy to give you my email. Anybody who's interested, I'll give them the links to those websites and information. I've copied it, so if they don't have access to a computer, I'll be more than happy to mail it out to them. But there's a vast amount of information about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, which is the dominant cryptocurrency right now out there. What we were able to do was research it and pick out and sort through all the technical stuff and get down to the basics. So we have links. We have links of those sites where they can learn everything they need to know about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin.
Okay. How can we form cooperatives to financial cooperatives as well as other cooperatives, and use this currency to create wealth in the African American community, and then have a means of exchanging that cryptocurrency to ensure that the wealth is with, say, individual families? How do we go about doing that?
Okay, the first thing is people have to come together, right? But when they come together, they should set up an economic agenda. Once you set up your economic agenda and you share your skill set and whatever resources you have, then money and resources and information will come. But the primary thing that needs to be done is for people to come together. One of the reasons that Facebook and any social networking capability is so powerful is that they just have mobilization of people, and there's value. There's economic and value, and business people see that. They go where the people are. So once we come together, then we can form cryptocurrencies, because what's going to happen is that when people start coming together, economic activity is going to take place, especially if they come together with the specific purpose, providing goods and services to each other. That creates what's known as a GDP. Once you have a GDP and you could measure that, then you could back your cryptocurrency with that and any other resources that you want to invest in with that.
And I'm going to take the time. I'm going to take the time real quick to tell them what the acronym GDP stands for, Gross Domestic Product, because there's some people who may not know that.
Right. Thank you. I should have done that myself. Thank you. So yes. So once can you imagine there's 1.8 billion of us here, people of African descent here on the planet, 44 million. Can you imagine just the power of just 1 million African Americans coming together and developing an internal GDP and issuing a cryptocurrency to back and measure that GDP? What would happen? How much value that currency would have? It would have immediate value overnight.
Yes. Immediate value, immediate power. You're absolutely correct.
So again, imagine there's a network of tens of thousands of construction workers, tens of thousands of nurses, tens of thousands of doctors, tens of thousands of teachers, tens of thousands of entrepreneurs that are moving goods and services from artisan craftspersons that are developing value-added products as a result of food that they produce. That sort of activity taking place can be measured and quantified and put out actually on the world market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
that is true.
If you exchange that and we develop a true Pan-African order, and you start talking about shared ownership and investment in strategic minerals and resources that exist over in the continent, you're talking about a new world order, which is already starting. As you know, Dr. Jackson, the 7 of the out of the 10 largest
fastest growing economies in the world on the continent.
Fastest growing economies in the world, 7 of them are in Africa, and a lot of that. Yeah, unfortunately, though, we are not as involved as we should be in terms of that growth. That growth is basically our brothers and sisters on the continent are still relatively dependent on European expertise to develop an economic agenda for those resources, and increasingly now the Chinese, but they're doing a much better job. But they're getting their profit margin too. But they're doing a much better job in utilizing the basics in terms of infrastructure development than Europeans have done.
Yeah,
they're not.
This is an extremely interesting conversation, and one that it would have to go really in depth related to, a whole paradigm shift from fiat money to cryptocurrency. Wow, we're running out of time, and I'd like to thank you once again for being a part of the show, and possibly looking at the possibility of having you back further to have some more in-depth conversation about cryptocurrency and its use, as well as the need for us to support cooperatives and the need for cooperative support and personal development. If one wanted to reach out to you to learn more information about cryptocurrency, please provide the listeners with your contact information.
Yes, sure. They can get me at our email. The website I'd rather give because of we're off the grid in terms of we don't use Facebook.
Understand.
So I'll give them
information.
Yeah. The email is fruits spelled with 2 F's at gmail. Fruits84 spelled with 2 F's at gmail.com. That's FFRUITS 84 at gmail.com. And they can also get us off social networking page at Facebook. They can just type in First Fruits Development, and they'll see the direction that we're going. We're excited. Next week we're going to have a unity, organizing event with the first day of Kwanzaa, as you know, is Umoja. And we're putting out a call to all the African American social networking pages to come together in the spirit of unity to create infrastructure, not just to come together, but to create the infrastructure for us to exchange goods and services with each other. So I'm excited about that, and that's going to happen next week. And I'll be more than happy to share that information with anybody that contacts me via email.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Again, I want to thank you again for being on the show. That's some very interesting information, and that is true personal development, because we're talking about a paradigm shift in currency and the way you use currency, how that currency can have value, but more importantly, how the collective can come together, and that collective could actually be the family, starting with the family and moving out amongst other African Americans. Source Nation, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week. And until next week, have a great one.